Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo, and welcome to day 7 of a year of change. It's the end of your first week. You've made it through the 1 week mark. And so today we're just sort of going to set a few of the more, grim topics aside that we've been dealing with for the past few days anyway. And just sort of say congratulations. And you've made it 1 full week, which is, longer than some of us have done in the past. And you can do 1 week, so all you need to do for the next time is just go another week. That's all you can do, just sort of take baby steps that way. Today I'm going to sort of focus on something that I've brought up a number of different times, and that's creating a good community for us on the channel. And I figure what better way to do that than to sort of start things off right and just sort of share what my experiences have been like. It's probably been very similar to what a lot of you have gone through as well. And just sort of get the ball rolling. Someone's got to start somewhere, sort of like at an AA meeting. Someone has to stand up first. So, I guess the best thing to do is just sort of start. It was very, very small. I've always been fat, even from the time I was a little kid. And from the earliest time that I can remember, even 6 years old and earlier, I was always like the fat kid of the family. And it's like my entire family isn't fat. My father was when he was younger, but he lost the weight as he went through puberty. My mom and my younger sister are, and my older sister is, complete opposite. So it wasn't that it was, I came from a fat family and then, everyone else, their family was fat and everything else. It's just that, part of, I guess me being brought up was, food was always sort of a reward for stuff. So, and I was never one of those, cool kids. Never had, a whole lot of friends. My sister did. My older sister had, she was always very popular in school. She always had lots of friends, and in turn, they were, nice to me. But as far as having sort of my own little group, I never really had that. I was friendly with a lot of other people and stuff, but just in general was never one of the cool kids. So even from the time I was very little, there's always been something going on that I was put on a diet, or, people made comments, like family members and stuff like that. So I've always grown up with it. As I got older, I sort of touched on this yesterday. Your personality sort of has to do double duty to, sort of make up for the fact that you're not one of the popular people. And so that's when I started learning to sort of make fun of myself first before other people could. And come up with those defense mechanisms that a lot of you probably do too, where, you just sort of accept it and, deal with it, the scathing remarks in private later on. This continued on through, middle school and high school, and it was never to a point where, I got, bullied to an extent where I just couldn't deal with it anymore. There's always a few that do it, but I learned very early on just to avoid those people, and sort of stick with the group I was in. Granted, the groups that I would normally hang out with, they all had their own, issues as well. But when you sort of gather together in a group, you have a little bit of strength. So after high school, of course, high school is, the years actually throughout school are the absolute worst in anyone's life. There are certainly going to be horrible things that are going to happen throughout someone's life, like death of family members and things like that. But that period, especially the period, like grade 9 through 12, that section of anyone's life is by far the worst period of life that anyone could ever go through. Unless you're one of the popular people that everyone hates, then it's just a devastating 5 years, or 3 years, 4 years. I can do math. Shut up. As you can see, it served me well. But through 9, 10, 11, and 12, 4, yes, then that's really when, people's personalities have sort of cemented. They're going to change and go through phases and stuff like that, but that's when they become who they are going to be, as an adult. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, that means, picking on those that, are different. And for me, it was because I was fat. So, for those of you out there that are still going through school, if you can make it through high school, you'll be able to handle fucking anything that life can throw at you. That can throw at you. So, as bad as things are, it stops. Once you go to university, the people that are going to university are there to learn, and they don't care. And if you're going to work, you don't run into that same sort of thing. It's just the assholes at high school. So, sort of an off-topic thing, but something I figured is worth saying. So, throughout high school, I had my close circle of friends, 2 or 3 people that I spoke with and hung out with. And, but I was still always, the fat friend. Wasn't specifically designated as that, obviously, but, I mean, it's just, you just know, when you're looking around and you're, literally twice the size of other people, then you are the fat friend. And, I mean, there were other people that I knew that were bigger than I was, which made me feel better, oddly enough. And I'm sure they went through, a lot more hell than I ever did. But within your group, that's your position, that's your niche. And it follows you throughout, throughout university or work or whatever you do. And that it did for me anyway, is that, not that I was like, oh, well, I'm going to be the fat friend, but you sort of still hang on to that because that's just how you identify yourself. Different places that I've worked, very good people, very friendly people and stuff. And I mean, it's never been an issue. They've never brought it up. And I've been friends with people that have issues much worse than I do. But you still, in your head, you still think of yourself as, I'm the fat one. Like, they're the cool one, they're the funny one, I'm the fat one. So it does sort of follow along with you. Now, there was a period about 15 years ago when I lost quite a bit of weight. And I was down to, a fairly normal size for my height. And I felt great. And it just, I was eating better. I was always going out and, going for walks and stuff like that. And I was actually doing stuff. Then, as, a number of things that happened, on top of which I quit smoking. And that's when things really sort of ballooned up. Now, I'm not saying that quitting smoking is going to make you fat, but quitting smoking will make you fat. Because for those of you that are smoking, if you quit, there's, it's that activity. Something needs to replace it. And generally what ends up happening is that people sort of turn to food. For those of you who don't smoke, you're not going to understand anyway, but imagine if someone said to you today, okay, no more sugar forever. You're going to turn to something else to fill that. So that's when I sort of started gradually gaining weight again. And then it's just sort of been slow and steady ever since. And there have been times that I've, we're using MyFitnessPal. There's times that I've used that before and it worked great. I lost, quite a bit of weight, but I just didn't stick with it. Like people I was doing it with, they sort of stopped, they went by the wayside, or I had one day where, I fell off the wagon and thought, screw it, I'm not going to go back to it again. So, there's always an excuse, that we look for. But, that sort of, not exactly a yo-yo, but like a large period where, I was always fat and then sort of dropped down to a normal weight. And now I'm well beyond, anything I was before. This is the heaviest I've been. Fattest I've been. I'm sorry. I'm going to try not to use euphemisms. This is the plumpest and fluffiest I've ever been. So, there's, no matter what you do or where you are, no matter how people treat you, there is that part of you that is still going to think, I'm the fat one, so it does affect how people see you. Now, we're going to get into how, media portrays us and stuff like that at a later date, but what I just mean is, one-on-one when you're talking to someone. And you can see it, if you go for a job interview, or if, you're going out with friends and you're meeting one of their friends. that first impressions are there for a reason. And generally, that's the first impression that you think people give you. That, they see you and they're like, whoa. Like, what? They're huge. It's, and so they sort of follow that along with them. Not that they might, not speak to you because of it, but it does, cloud their judgment somewhat. In a job interview, and I've seen it, when you go for a job interview, and it doesn't matter what your qualifications are, you can tell within that first, 2 to 3 minutes of the interview whether or not you're getting a job, that, they're looking at you going, no, you're fat, and it sort of equates to being lazy, and I think it's a big red flag for them. And now, again, I'm not saying this is 100%, positive that this is what happens. It's just, this is my perception of it. That I've looked at people and immediately you can see that look in their eye. They're like, no. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I don't think I'm the only person that thinks that, because there have been people that, and I know technically you can't, they can't forego hiring you because of your appearance, but people do. It's a given. Everyone knows that they do. So, there may have been some jobs I wasn't set out for, which is fine. And I'm not talking about jobs where, you need to be in good shape. Like, I would never go, after, like, a police force or firefighter or anything like that, because obviously, I can't do the job. They by all rights, they should look at me and say, no, you're way too fat. Lose the weight, get in shape, and come talk to us then. There are certain jobs that people just simply can't do. But I think that there is sort of a link there that people look at it and say, no, you're fat and you're lazy. So it's just safer for them to go another way. On top of that, people's just first impressions anyway. Most people, when you go into a job interview, I know he's sort of going back to this one, but when you go into a job interview, it's generally within the first 2 minutes that you get the job. No matter what you say, no matter how your interview goes, unless you completely screw things up at the end of it, and say, all right, well, good talking to you, and then punch them in the mouth, then they've made their decision. And it's usually when you first say hello. That first impression, how you greet them, how you talk to them, how you mirror, their body language, stuff like that, that's what gets you the job. On top of, the skills, which, but I'm just talking about the one-on-one interview thing. So when you come into a situation like that, and, the very first thing that they look at is they're fat. And, that instantly brings up, images of just sitting, doing nothing, eating, handful after handful of buckets of cheese and bacon and everything else, which is not always entirely untrue, but it does sort of equate to something that, is undesirable as an employee. So, let alone, how things look for, for a relationship. I would never blame anyone for judging someone for relationship viability based on their looks. People can say everything that they want about, saying, oh, well, no, it's the personality that counts, and it really isn't. When you look at someone, there's that first appearance or that first impression, is largely based on their appearance. So I'm not condemning people for that. So everybody is shallow. And that's another thing that we're going to get into later on. Everybody's shallow, which is fine. Just it's one of those things that you have to accept. So, my friends know me well enough to, not say, oh, you have to meet this person, because it's like, no, I know enough people. I don't want to meet any new people. But when you meet someone for the first time, that same judgment comes up again. And the reason why we see that, I think, is because we've dealt with it for so long. Like I say, I've been fat since I was a little kid. And part of that has sort of shaped how I view other people, and how I feel that they see me. So when people, that's part of the reason why I want to do this, online, so that when people look at me, they go, okay, this is a fat person that's doing this. This isn't someone who's already lost the weight. This is a fat person. They understand. So, having that sort of mindset was, cemented in at a very young age, that when you first meet someone, or when I first meet someone, that's an obstacle I need to overcome right away. So, I've learned very quickly that, it's, which sounds sort of odd, but being polite and being nice and coming in with a joke fairly quickly, sort of alleviates that a little bit so that I can, get on their good side. Which sounds really sinister now that I think about it. I don't mean it that way. I just mean, there are some people that you can meet, and I've got friends like this, and it's not that they're, just vacuous idiots, but I have friends that when people first meet them, they like them right away, just, based on their appearance, and I mean, they have the personality to match, don't get me wrong, but I'm not one of those people. And a lot of you that are watching this are not one of those people. We simply aren't, and it's simply because of the weight. That, although there are a few and far between that might like it, in general, it's not an attractive look. So, and yes, I know the shaved head sort of compiles that, but it's when you have that sort of situation that, when someone first meets you, there are those people that, can just start in right away. They're already, people like them because of how they look. And they sort of keep that going with their personality. With fat people, then we sort of need to, jump that first hurdle. And not that people don't like us right away, but we just have a little bit more work that we need to do to get on the sort of the same plateau. Again, this isn't for relationships. I'm just talking about in general. Relationships is a whole other thing. That's one of those things that, I wouldn't blame anybody for saying, no, I can't date you because you're fat. That's a perfectly viable and legitimate reason to not want to be in a relationship with someone. And you can say it's, shallow if you want, but it's true. Now, actually, in sort of keeping with the tone of this video, and doing the sharing, I'll probably do this every week, actually, now that I think about it. There's, we'll do Fridays as the embarrassing story day. One of the things that happened to me a few years ago, which sounds really horrible when I first say it, but it isn't, was I didn't look like this. I had a lot less weight on me, but I was still fat. It was we had sort of started hanging out a little bit more back and forth and stuff, and there was a connection there. This is sort of the embarrassing story that I'll share this week. So there was a connection there, and we got along very, very well. And one good thing about it is that we could be very frank with each other back and forth. And there was one day she said something which should have actually hurt a lot more. But I mean, all of us have heard that, no, I like you as a friend, or, oh, I don't think of you that way. Just regardless as to what's been, what you've felt for that person, that you always end up with just being the friend. And a lot of that's just because, we're fat. But she was very honest, and she had said, she actually had said to me, you are what I'm looking for in a relationship, but I need someone I can be physically attracted to. And above, for the past, God knows how many years of people saying that, oh, I like you as a friend, or I don't think of you that way, and all the other excuses that I've heard, that you may have heard, that one didn't feel like an excuse. She was 100% honest. I really appreciated it, and it didn't change the dynamic at all. We were still very friendly. We actually ended up working together. And it was one of those things that still sticks with me. And it's probably been 10 years now, where it still sort of stands out as the one time that someone was honest about it. And so you can't really be mad at someone for that. If they had made up some other excuse, we always see through those. We know the reason why. But having someone just flat out say no, and here's why, was really refreshing. And I know it sounds sort of odd that I should be, just devastated by someone saying that to me, but it's, like I say, it still stands out as sort of, as, the most honest answer I've received. So, again, that's sort of part of going back to how I perceive things from the very young age that, I know where I stand. I have accepted it. Well, not really accepted it because that's why we're doing this. But to get to a point where I can say enough is enough. Tired of the excuses that I'm giving myself. I'm tired of the excuses I'm hearing other people give me. Tired of, people, staring at you, not being able to go out to a restaurant because, you assume that while you're sitting there eating, people are just staring at you and not being able to finish their meals. And just overall having that negative connotation to who you are. And it isn't really who we are. I mean, if you're talking to someone, either like online or over the phone or anything like that, I mean, that's when your personality comes out. It's just that one-to-one when I guess when you're face-to-face with someone and you can see their reaction to how you look and how you feel, and whether or not you're just being paranoid or whether it's valid, that's how you feel. So, I mean, that's sort of part of the main reason why I wanted to start this is, I'm just tired of feeling that way. So I figure the best way to do it is to sort of share something a little more personal with you, start things off, so that it'll sort of get things rolling for the people in the comments or in emails or on Twitter, whatever you're doing, so that you can share those little things and say, yes, this is, I've run through the same thing, or, I've heard those same excuses, or if you've got someone that, has at least been honest with you and said, I'm sorry, we can't hire you because you're too fat, or, we can't do this because of your appearance. Because again, we know why. We know what their reasons are. Sometimes it's actually amusing trying to see them figure out a good excuse for this. Like, don't say fat, don't say fat, don't say fat. But in general, we know what the problem is. So, but anyway, the sort of getting off track here. Anyway, the past few years, we've gone through like my childhood and high school and, everything else. So during the past few years, I've sort of maintained the same weight. Because I don't eat to capacity as much anymore. It's just I still eat a tremendous amount. And it's obviously too much, but my body's gotten to a point where, I'm hovering around the same 10-pound zone all the time. So a few years ago is when I first started the MyFitnessPal. And did really well, had other people doing it along with me, and was much easier than I thought it was going to be. And I knew it worked. And, of course, fell by the wayside. So, tried again. Just didn't stick with it. And, I've tried it 3 or 4 times. And as long as you stick with it, it will work. I guarantee you, if it's working with me, it'll work with anybody. Because it's just, again, my problem wasn't junk food. It's, the amount that I'm eating. So that was the main thing when I first started, that I thought, I'm going to get to a point where, I'm just always going to be hungry. And I never am when I'm on this. That's not exactly true. There are going to be times when you're hungry, but you sort of get to that point when you're like, yeah, I'm kind of hungry. I could have something, or I couldn't. I can deal without. And, literally a couple of drinks of water and you're fine. It's not, I have that horrible, horrible craving that I want something. So, it's been a long time since I've actually tried this again. It's been 6 months or more since I actually, tried doing any weight loss at all. And part of it is just because I'm lazy, and part of it is because food tastes great. Everything tastes so good. Particularly high fatty foods, like, pizza, or actually pizza's not that bad. Pizza's actually pretty good. It's got everything that you need in there. Things, that are just way over the top, like nachos and grilled cheese sandwiches and stuff like that. Like, it's grease and salt are my main things. Which is odd because I still actually really enjoy salads and vegetables and fruit and stuff like that. It's just, again, it'd be a lot better if I just did that, but I can still, I still treat every meal like it's Thanksgiving. So, but anyway, it's been a long time since I've done anything, to start this off, and each time, and I mean, you've done the same thing where you go, okay, this time it's going to be different. This time I'm going to succeed. I'm going to, lose weight and get out and exercise and drink, juice and buy carrots and just, get everything into me as, all healthy foods and gluten-free stuff. And it just, we just go so far over the top that we can't maintain it. And I think that's what the problem is. So, that's part of the reason why I want this to go over a year, is because if I do it really, really slowly, I know I'm going to stick with it as well. And tomorrow, actually, when we do our weigh-in, we're going to make our first food change as well. Or actually, no, sorry. Yes, but no, sort of. We aren't actually going to change anything too harshly. Don't worry, it's going to be manageable no matter what sort of food that you're eating now. Yeah, we don't do our first actual food change, I think, until a week later. I don't know. I might be lying. We might do everything tomorrow. I don't know. But, yeah, I want to sort of, that's part of the reason why I'm taking this so slowly is, I want it to be something that I know I'm going to stick with. And I tend to, sort of go overboard too quickly, which, I stick with it for a while and then gradually peter off. So I want something that, almost feels as if we're going too slow. I'd rather it feel like we're going too slowly than too quickly. Because if it's going too slow and you say, you know what, I'm going to start exercising this week instead of, week 8 or whatever you have it down to. So if you start exercising for 2 weeks and then you stop, it's okay because we don't have it planned yet. I'd rather have that happen with you guys than instead of, saying, okay, week 2, now we have to run a mile a day, and then you stop after a week, and then you stop watching, and you stop taking part, and you go back to eating, and, go back to where we don't want to be. So, that's why I said, like, right now, especially where these are, one video a day, sometimes it does feel like it's going to be going a little too slowly, but look at it sort of the big picture, that after 52 weeks, that's 52 changes that we need to make. It sounds like a lot. And, there's probably going to be some weeks where we aren't, changing a lot. We're just like adding something or removing something. Our first actual food change is going to be adding something rather than taking something away. So just to put you at your mind at ease that way. Actually, the first 2, I think, are actually adding something. I don't know. Anyway, I have rambled on far, far too long on this. We're now almost half an hour. So I just thought that I would sort of start things off, share one of the sort of embarrassing personal moments from my life, give you an idea as to why I'm doing this, where I'm coming from, and, that I've gotten to that point where I've had enough. And that, I'm sure some of you are getting to that point as well. Some of you may have already passed it, and you're just sort of watching this as, trying to find something. And I really hope that this does help. I mean, that's part of the reason why I want to do this as well, is that it's always better when you have someone to, do a program with. People tend to lose more if they have someone that they're doing this with. But this way it's a little bit safer in that, you're not going to your friends and saying, I'm losing weight. Do you want to lose weight with me? Because then again, if they say no, you're sort of on your own. And but this way, if we're sharing back and forth, and especially on my end where I have to do one of these a day, it keeps me going. It keeps me motivated to a point where, like, if I miss a day, you folks are going to know, and I hope that you're going to call me on it, and say, like, there's no video up today, you need to put this up. Sort of keep me on track and keep that encouragement going, and I want to do the same for you guys. Because while there's other programs that are out there that certainly do the same thing, I don't think there's anything really like this where, we're all doing this at the same time, starting it off, and that you have a fat person leading the way, which sounds odd. So I'm hoping, at the end of the year that we're all going to feel better. We may not look, a tremendous amount better. You might only average out losing, 20 pounds over the course of a year. But it's 20 pounds. It's 20 pounds that you would still have on you. And it's, ideally, I've said this in the intro before, our main goal is to change how we look at food. Not necessarily lose all the weight right away, but change how we look at it so that we can, continue on and gradually make a lifestyle change that way. So, but I'm sorry this is taking so long, but I sort of really wanted to dig deep, for the first little bit, and I'll share little embarrassing stories like that every now and then. I've got a ton of them. Some of them are very funny. Some of them are not so funny, and there are a couple that I'm still angry about. But share back and forth in the comments. Send me an email if you want. I'll see you on Twitter as well, and just sort of get the ball rolling. Get that community started for everybody. So, but that's it for this video. Tomorrow we're going to do our first weigh-in. A lot of you are going to be gaining weight throughout this week. Some of you are going to be, the majority of you are going to be maintaining, and a few of you are probably going to lose weight as well. But don't worry, that's what this is for. That's to be expected, so don't get discouraged. But we're going to do our first weigh-in and sort of set things up for the next week, and get our goals in order and start this off properly now that we're used to actually tracking our food. So thank you very much for watching the video. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, stay warm and fuzzy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.